joining us today. Today we are in the Augustine Alumni Center, and we do have a limited audience. Because of the support of Franklin Bank and Trust, we are able to live stream today's event to celebrate the 3 newest members of the Hall of Distinguished Alumni with Hilltoppers around the world. Please join me in thanking Alex, Joe, and all our friends at Franklin Bank and Trust for their continued support of the Hall of Distinguished Alumni program. And welcome to the 2021 Hall of Distinguished Alumni Induction Ceremony. I am Donna LeMaster-Breedenberg, and I happily serve as the WKU Alumni Association Board of Directors President. Today, our 3 inductees will join the ranks of only 111 other members of the Hall of Distinguished Alumni who have been recognized for their leadership, loyal support, service, and dedication to both WKU and their respective disciplines. Your WKU Alumni Association is led by our amazing staff in the Division of Philanthropy and Alumni Engagement, our dedicated Executive Director, Anthony McAdoo, and a board of devoted volunteer alumni from around the country. Members of our Alumni Association make days like today possible. Thank you for investing in WKU. I am privileged to serve as president of the board of directors because I get to work alongside such inspiring and talented individuals who share a passion for this university. The mission of our WKU Alumni Association is to strengthen the tradition, ignite the spirit, and serve our alumni community through building lifelong relationships and connections. We accomplish our mission by engaging alumni as ambassadors for WKU, inspiring alumni to invest in the future of WKU, and by celebrating our alumni and their achievements. Today, we celebrate our alumni with the highest honor Western Kentucky University bestows upon any Hilltopper. I not only have the privilege of serving as president of the board of directors this year, but also the great honor of chairing the Hall of Distinguished Alumni Selection Committee last year. The selection committee has a duty to select individuals who have distinguished themselves with the highest levels of achievement, who possess integrity and character to reflect the values of WKU, and who are diverse in background, ethnicity, and gender. As president of the WKU Alumni Association Board of Directors, I enthusiastically support this year's distinguished inductees. The selection process is analytical, it's thoughtful, and it is certainly emotional. Each person's story has so many chapters to be considered, and I admire the stories you are about to hear today. They positively reflect the spirit of WKU and represent the diversity of Hilltoppers who comprise our alumni. They define opportunity, and they live out life, more life. I am so proud of this class and grateful to participate in their induction. To officially induct these distinguished alumni into the Western Kentucky University Hall of Distinguished Alumni, please welcome to the stage our 10th president of WKU, Dr. Timothy Caboni.
Thank you, Donna, and fellow alumni and friends. I'm honored to join you today to celebrate the many tremendous achievements made by our alumni. For more than 100 years, individuals have made their home on our Hill to learn, to better themselves, and to acquire the preparation and tools that enable their path towards success. But they leave with so much more. And they go on not only to make a good living, but just as important, a good life for all those around them. And while we recognize the extraordinary personal and professional achievements of all of our alumni, we also honor, in a very special way, a select few. We have 117,000 alumni around the globe, but today we celebrate three. Three individuals whose contributions stand out. Three individuals who epitomize the WKU spirit. Three individuals whose lives transform their communities and beyond. And three individuals who provide vivid examples to our WKU community of what it means to reimagine possibilities, to work hard, and to achieve at the highest levels in their professional and in their personal lives. We teach our Hilltoppers that they can accomplish their dreams, that they can make a difference, and that they can make our world a better place. The three alumni we celebrate today and the 111 already inducted into the Hall of Distinguished Alumni not only prove all these possible, but also give hope and inspiration for generations of Hilltoppers to come. There's no better evidence of the success we achieve and celebrate as an institution than our Hall of Distinguished Alumni. Now, as we begin the installation of our 2021 inductees, let me thank the WKU Alumni Association Board of Directors. Thank you for your leadership and your willingness to serve. And thank you for your good work during the selection process. Today, we have a special opportunity to recognize a leader in higher education, a transformational marketing leader, and a nationally recognized physician. And WKU is proud to have been home to each of these remarkable individuals. So now, it's my privilege to present to you our 2021 Hall of Distinguished Alumni inductees, Howard Bailey, Michelle June James, and Dr. Rebecca Shadowin. We begin with Howard Bailey. A third-generation student from a small town in southeast Kentucky, Howard was the first in his family to attend a predominantly white university. He enrolled at WKU in 1966 as a history major, with his sights set on teaching and possibly law school. However, taking a job as a resident assistant proved to be a pivotal moment that eventually led him on a 4-decade journey in higher education. Earning his bachelor's degree in 1971 and his master's in 1973, Howard worked for 7 of WKU's 10 presidents during his 45-year professional career. He served as Assistant Dean of Student Affairs, Dean of Student Life, Associate Vice President of Student Affairs, and finally, Vice President of Student Affairs, a position he held for 8 years until his retirement in 2015. With a national reputation in student affairs and higher education, Howard was known as a hands-on administrator who built countless connections throughout the WKU family. He believes in the power of education to change lives, especially the lives of African American students. One former student and later colleague put it this way: Howard believed in you until you could believe in yourself. And even today, he continues to serve as a mentor and a friend to students and young professionals. Please turn your attention to the video screens to meet our first 2021 Hall of Distinguished Alumni inductee, Howard Bailey.
In a career that spanned 4.5 decades, Howard Bailey was known for his ability to connect with students.
I could relate to the students because of my leadership as a student, being involved in student organizations, and then being a hall director for many years, dealing with students where they are.
And he's always a teacher. And sometimes he's teaching you and you don't even know it. But you think about it later, and he's so good at seeing potential in others and then developing that potential.
Howard was born in the small town of Middlesboro, Kentucky, population 10,000. Located in the southeast part of the state, Middlesboro was wedged over in the corner between Tennessee and Virginia.
I could leave my parents' front porch and see both of the other states, and it didn't take but about a mile to walk to the other two states. I tell people when I'm doing race relation training, if they go home and they remember one thing, that they've seen a black hillbilly today.
Howard remembers his parents putting him in school a year early so his mom could get a job.
And I started school in a one-room school, 1 through 8, outside toilets. We did have electricity, but no running water. And that was the way I started my formal education.
An average student with what he calls a horrendous ACT score, Howard was told by his high school guidance counselor that he wasn't college material. But some of his football teammates were being recruited by Western, and after watching the school's basketball team in the 1965 NIT, they were intrigued.
When they started seeing West Kentucky University, West Kentucky State College, playing in Madison Square Garden, and there was 3 or 4 black guys on the team, Clem and Greg and Dwight, Jerry Butler. It was shocking. I mean, people in black communities around the state and beyond said, where is this place?
With his sister attending college in Nashville, Howard enrolled at Western in the fall of 1966. He remembers the day his parents dropped him off.
We all pulled up in front of West Hall, and Dad helped me carry my foot locker and all my personal belongings into 101 West Hall. And he said, well, since we're over this part of the state, we're going to go to Nashville to see your sister. See you later. Good luck.
Some of that luck combined with improved study habits, and Howard began to shine. By his junior year, he had been singled out to be a resident assistant, and by his senior year, helped found the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity.
Howard, again, was a legend in that. I think in '69, he was the original charter, one of the original charter members. And he always held the fraternity in high regard, as well as continuing that legacy of connecting with young people and young brothers as they came through each year.
Howard realized teaching was not for him the summer before he was named assistant director at the newly opened Pierce Ford Tower under Horace Schrader. Schrader then became assistant director of housing, and Howard was hired by Dean of Students Charles Cowan.
We both kept our apartments and ran PFT at night and got up and went to Weatherby and became full-time administrators during the day.
It put him on an administrative path that students crossed for the next 40-plus years.
When I came to Western in the fall of 1978, and early on in my freshman year, Howard Bailey was someone who everyone advised me to get to know and to meet. But the great thing about Howard was I didn't have to find him, he found me.
Dave and Kelly Parrott are among many former students and later colleagues who considered Howard a mentor and to this day call him an even better friend.
I'm not the first person in my family tree, I'm the first person in the whole orchard. to go to college. So Howard, you know, he may have seen that, I think, that I was just lost and needed to belong and connect, and his instincts made all the difference in the world for me.
Dave spent years in a consulting business with Howard, speaking on race relations around the country.
My dissertation is in the area of racial identity development. And of course, Howard has a lifetime of experience, and we married the body of literature with Howard's experience. And we ran around and worked with university police departments, faculty groups, civic organizations, high school faculties, and so forth. And that's what we did for the longest time.
He says there's no question Howard Bailey has a major footprint nationally in the area of student affairs.
I was a hands-on administrator, and I had that kind of training. Getting the knock on the door or the phone to ring at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you go upstairs in your building and resolve a problem.
So much of it was so organic. He did not necessarily try to fit into boxes. What he did was make himself available and invest in the university and in young people in a spectacular way.
Married for the past 42 years to his wife, Kayla, the two have one son, Malcolm. But his many connections through WKU are also very much part of his family.
I'm most proud of the lives that I touched. Nothing that I did, but when I see those kinds of people that I was able to enhance their career, touching those folks, I'm proud of what they have done.
2021 Hall of Distinguished Alumni inductee, Howard Bailey.
I'm going to take a little longer than after all of that, probably just said waved and sit down. Where's Dr. Craig Taylor? Craig, stand up. Craig Taylor was the first advisor to Kappa Alpha Psi on Western's campus in 1969. Not only that, but he was a faculty member and helped me. I don't know whether I deserved the grade I got, but he helped me out. If you can think 1969 and a white faculty member agrees to be the advisor to a black male organization, he took steps that none of us can ever take. Craig, thank you. I have to say, I regret, and thanks Tommy and everyone that's been here on my behalf. My wife has been in either hospital or rehab since late July. She's now at Fraser Rehab in Louisville. She took her first step on a walker yesterday in 3 months. So I'd give all of this up to have my wife home at the house. I want to thank Jenny Hensley. She, that part of the video came to Fraser Rehab and set up, and because I could not get here during working hours. But I want to thank Jenny for all of what she has tolerated and put up with me. I want to pay respect, and I guess some of you thought, okay, now you know. Yes, I'm biracial. And you saw my parents in there. I want to thank Lawrence and Jean, my parents, for what they did for me, raising me and as a mountain kid. I want to thank Dean Cowan and Horace Schrader, who passed away 2 months ago. Otherwise, he would have been in that video for sure. Reed Morgan, Jerry Wilder, Frank Moxley, and Charles Taylor, who were adult fraternity people that helped us along the way. And yes, I came to Western at age 17. My church wanted me to go to Livingston College in North Carolina and study to be a minister. And I started on a different track. I told them, hell no. But what I've been able to do is touch a lot of lives and help young people find their dream and fulfill their dream. I was asked about buildings and different things, Gary, that we did. None of that is important. It's the lives that I was able to touch. But Gary, you're the one that should be up here, not me. I wanted you in there on that video, but I found out that was going to be taboo. We wouldn't have survived it if we'd have got you in there. Some of the things that I encountered being an African American in this environment, I'm jotting them down. Charles English Sr. has challenged me to write a book. I got a long way to go, but I'll tell you, there's things in there like what Gil Rubel would remember when I would step out of the office to meet the parents of a white student, stick out my hand to say hello, Dr. Caboni, and they'd just leave my hand hanging there. They'd never shaken hands with an African American before. I had a meeting with the local Klansmen. They decided that they wanted to start a student chapter at Western. Did not know that the dean of students was an African American. So there have been some interesting things that I've done. All of that will be hopefully in the book. It hasn't been easy, Gary, I know, to have supported an African-American male that was a renegade and didn't always play by the rules or would rewrite the rules. And yes, I was told not to go to college. I was told that I wasn't college material. Third generation college graduate. My grandfather was a graduate of Tuskegee. My grandmother on the black side now. The white folks didn't go to college. My grandmother was an alum at Knoxville College, my grandfather at Tuskegee. And as the video said, I told her I was going to do something different. She was not pleased with that. But as of today, there are 25 members of the Bailey family who are WKU alums. So I don't know if a poor black kid with a low GPA would make it into WKU today. I don't know. I talked to CPE last week, and they told me that we're number 3 now in graduation and enrollment of African Americans. We used to be number 1, so we're going to have to get on that. Got to do something about that. I don't like being number 3. I'm going to close by saying I want to thank those 7 presidents that I worked under. I worked under 7 of the 10 presidents at WKU. And I want to thank God that none of them offered me a buyout to leave. Thank you.
Second today, we honor Michelle June James. Growing up in Hopkinsville, Kentucky as a teenager, Michelle says she had a vision of becoming a television anchor. She studied both broadcasting and psychology at WKU, and she also pledged Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, making connections that continue to play out in her personal and her professional life. In fact, a well-timed lecture sponsored by her sorority that she admittedly almost skipped changed the trajectory of her career. After graduating in 1998, Michelle began an internship at BET in Washington, D.C. And within a few years, she found herself living and working in the Mecca of media, New York City. During that time, she obtained her Master of Science degree in print and digital media from New York University. Michelle's experience with brand work and developing marketing campaigns led to a variety of roles during the past 2 decades. And in January of this year, her expertise landed her at Facebook as head of culture and community marketing for Instagram. Michelle's journey has not been without challenges, including a bout with breast cancer that she publicly discussed on her popular podcast, Cocktails and Cancer. Never afraid to take a risk or pivot for an opportunity, friends say it's not surprising to see Michelle reach for her dreams. And Michelle says, a sign in her home reads, "The worst mistake is not to make any." She recalls a psychology professor at WKU asking, "Do you want to make money or have a career?" She says she never forgot that lecture, and from then on only made decisions based on her career, and turned out pretty well for her. Please turn your attention to the video screen and meet our second 2021 Hall of Distinguished Alumni inductee, Michelle June James.
With a resume that reads like a who's who in the world of media, Michelle James is using her wide range of marketing expertise at the highest level. Currently at Facebook, Michelle is executing Instagram's global cultural strategy. She credits her time at WKU with giving her the ability and the confidence to reach for her dreams.
Western had prepared me for the opportunities that started to present themselves, because one of the things that I thought for me that was kind of profound is that I never had a professor that said you couldn't do anything or be anything that you wanted to be.
It was a lesson she also learned at a young age from her parents, immigrants who first came to the United States in their teens.
They instilled in me, you work hard for what you want. You can do anything you want to do. You work hard. They would share stories about their parents coming over with $10 in their pockets. So I am a product of, my grandparents really having an American dream and coming over and, seeing that through.
Michelle's family, which included 2 siblings, put down roots in Hopkinsville when she was in 5th grade.
My dad thought that the town of Hopkinsville, Kentucky, it seemed quaint, and he was in the military, and he was just like, I want you guys to live as normal of a life as possible.
Always outgoing, she caught the broadcasting bug around the age of 16.
We watched the Today Show, that was our thing to do every morning. And we'd watch the Today Show. My mom would say, oh, you should be like, Katie Couric, because you talk so much. And I think you would be so good at it.
Snagging a job at the local television station in high school, Michelle looked no further than WKU's broadcasting program when choosing a college. She also pledged Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority.
But once you meet MJ, there's a few things you'll know. What school she went to, that she's an AKA, and that she's from Kentucky. Those things she goes hard for. She loved to tell people those three things immediately.
But Michelle, just as she is today, just so energetic. She didn't come off as being nervous. She was just kind of the one who just rallied and just said, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to be great. And
it was a critical point in my life, because, it allowed me to, align with like-minded women who, were into community service and also, into their education and stay focused, but also have fun.
Right before graduation, Michelle vividly recalls almost skipping an AKA-sponsored lecture with BET host Bev Smith on campus. The two met that night, and through that connection a short time later, Michelle had secured an internship in Washington, D.C.
This internship, which really just opened my eyes to just a whole new world of TV. And not only did I work at BET during the week in my internship, is I got a job at an ABC affiliate, Good Morning Washington.
Later transitioning to the publishing division of the network, Michelle began a professional journey that would lead to stints at Harper's Bazaar, Scholastic, Essence, and then back as an executive at BET.
It was really kind of just one of those full circle moments where you had started off at a brand, and you had often saw people in senior positions, director level, VP level, and you're like, oh, that's got to be so cool. And then here you are coming into a brand at that level, and you're launching TV shows.
Indeed, Michelle was launching the biggest show of her career, the New Edition miniseries, when she was diagnosed with breast cancer.
And then I think I cried for 15 minutes. And then I got myself together. I was like, I got to get myself together. So I treated it just like I would treat a campaign. It's I put a plan together, I put the strategy in there. I got all my doctors together, got their recommendation.
Working the entire time, Michelle went through 6 months of chemo followed by radiation. It was a battle she kept mostly private.
She's such a fighter and she's such a warrior, and she didn't want people to think that she wasn't going to be the same old MJ anymore.
Her public life on Instagram never hinted at her illness, but that changed 3 years after she was diagnosed when she read an article on the mortality rate of Black women with breast cancer.
And I remember I couldn't sleep that night, and something said, you need to do something. And so literally the next morning I woke up and I posted on my social media on Instagram, and I said, I'm a breast cancer survivor, and I'm going to launch a podcast. And the podcast is going to be called Cocktails and Cancer.
What she said is Black women are dying, and she felt responsible for getting out there and telling her story in hopes that it would help to save lives with early detection and information and so on.
By now working for Fuse Media, the podcast not only generated a lot of buzz, it opened Michelle up to another layer of the tech world. She began doing global recruitment for Google PRX, which led to the call from Facebook for what she says is the role of a lifetime for Instagram.
And the brand was really looking for someone that had cultural expertise, of course, strength in marketing, and had done campaigns that were culturally relevant.
Prompted by her excitement over WKU's Sweet 16 appearance in 2008, Michelle created the Michelle June James Scholarship Fund for a student majoring in marketing or media.
The great thing about Western is Western allows you to have a solid foundation in life and be well-rounded. And then what you decide to do with that is up to you.
Now her legacy will live on in the Hall of Distinguished Alumni.
I'm never amazed when things like this happen for her. This is a huge moment for her. She's super proud of herself, and I'm so proud of her.
But really, Michelle is just the epitome of sisterhood and service. I feel like, definitely she deserves this award because she has been committed to Western Kentucky universities since she left, always an ambassador. As a teacher, I use her story a lot to help with my students because she's just from Hoptown, Kentucky, small little town in Kentucky. And I just think it's amazing that she has followed her dream and then some.
2021 Hall of Distinguished Alumni inductee, Michelle James.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that. And I also want to thank Jeannie so much, just the fact that they had those photos, it was a hard time getting me centered to do that video. And so I really appreciate everyone who worked on that project. Everyone has been asking me at the table, am I okay? And I was like, oh, I'm fine. And then when the video went up, I'm like, oh my God. So good afternoon, everyone. I stand before you today humbled and with great gratitude for this honor and recognition. First, I'd like to thank President Gaboni, Jeannie Hensley, and the entire WKU Alumni Organization for hosting us here in real life, or at IRL, as we say at Instagram. I would not be here without the love and support of my family and friends. I am joined today by my mother, June, and my sister, Cecilia, who is also a WKU alum. I'd like to also recognize my dear friend, Dr. Thomas McBride, and President Austin Taylor, who nominated me for this honor, and my sorority and Epsilon Zeta line sisters, Dr. Cherie Dawson-Edwards, and educator Adrian Lane. I'd also like to, that video really got me. I also would just like to share my gratitude for Dean Bailey, who was, Dean when I was here, Dean of Student Life when I was here, and definitely, made sure that I was on the straight and narrow. So I'd like to recognize him and the other honorees today. I was told I only have 5 minutes, so wish me luck. As I was preparing to be back on the Hill and what I wanted to share with you today, 2 words kept coming to mind: strong and courage. I'll start with the first. My mom made me strong, fueling with me confidence in the tools I needed to chase after my dreams. Corporate America would say she helped me develop strategic agility, future-oriented, anticipating future consequences and trends accurately, and to have a growth mindset. These tools allowed me to make mistakes, but keep moving forward despite them, and to own my personal narrative. Thank you, Mom. Arthur Mark Twain said, courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not absence of fear. The Hill taught me many lessons on courage. First, as a student, away from home for the first time, then as a resident assistant, or RA, at PFT, helping freshmen transition to college life, and finally, as a desk attendant at Preston Fitness Center, which was the coolest job on campus at the time. It was new, everybody wanted to be there working out, and it was just super fun. I also learned the importance of having courage to say what needed to be said, courage to let people know where they stood, and not to be afraid to take the road less traveled. This courage would take me to New York City in 2000, to create a scholarship endowment at WKU in 2008, and to launch the podcast Cocktails and Cancer in 2019, and to accept my current role doing purposeful marketing and technology at Instagram. It is strength and courage that has carried me through life's lessons, and why I stand before you today, thankful that life is a journey and not a destination. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the impact pledging Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority at WKU made in my life. I pledged my sophomore year with 7 amazing women who would go on to be doctors, educators, and entertainment execs. I would learn the importance of working with others, community service, and organizing events like the Miss Black Western Gala. I was a part of a winning step show. Yes, a winning step show team in 96 and 97. We would practice for hours at the parking deck. And we would hate it. We would complain the entire time. And later I realized the lessons I learned at the top of that parking deck and really realized that it was more about us being together in sisterhood than about winning a step show. I received my first internship, marketing role, and lifelong friendships through my sorority. And I was full of pride when SOAR Kamala Harris was sworn in as the 49th Vice President of the United States of America earlier this year. I want to leave you with a story I shared with students during a career day on campus 14 years ago that still holds true. You all know the story of the red towel, and you know how we take pride in the way Coach Diddle, one of our school's most successful coaches, would have that towel with him at every game. He chewed on it, he threw it, he cried on it, he waved it at fans, and he signaled to his players with it. But more than anything, he held it tight. And that is what I hope all watching me today will continue to do in true Western spirit. Hold tight to your dreams, hold tight to your determination, and hold tight to that part of you that contains that dream that you've not yet realized. Keep that with you wherever you go. I'm proof that if you hold tight, stay strong, and have courage, you can achieve anything you put your mind to. Thank you, and Amor Fate.
Finally today, we honor Dr. Rebecca Shadowin. Dr. Shadowin was known as a nationally recognized infectious disease specialist and epidemiologist. She was a researcher, a teacher, a wife, and a mother. Rebecca Dawn Hunt, Becky to friends and family, came to WKU in the fall of 1976. She graduated with honors in 1980 alongside her boyfriend, David. The two married after their first year at the University of Louisville Medical School and continued their education in Kansas City, Charleston, before coming back to Bowling Green to begin their practices. Dr. Shadowin displayed her passion for educating the community from the beginning, whether it was setting up HIV care, preparing travel medicine for missionaries overseas, or researching the coronavirus well before any of us heard the word COVID. Dr. Shadowin served on the Bowling Green, Warren County Coronavirus Task Force and became an early advocate for wearing masks to prevent the spread of the virus. And she knew that a vaccine would eventually serve as our best line of protection. In May of 2020, Dr. Shadowin tested positive for COVID-19, succumbing to the illness 4 months later, long before that vaccine became available. Her death left a hole in the medical community, the Bowling Green community, the WKU family, and her family. Dr. Shadowin's love of medicine was well documented. But what you may not know is she also loved music. In fact, when she arrived at WKU as a student, she faced a decision. Would she pursue a medical career as a pre-med major, or would she follow her interest in music as a fine arts major? I think we can all agree she made the right choice. Now please turn your attention to the video screen and meet our final 2021 Hall of Distinguished Alumni inductee, Dr. Rebecca Shadowin, whose award will be received by her husband, David.
now more than ever, I think that knowledge is empowerment. And if we keep giving ourselves the information that we need to be able to function reasonably and to protect ourselves, then you feel like you have some degree of safety.
Throughout her medical career, the late Dr. Rebecca Shadowin did not shy away from any opportunity to share important health information.
She was often the one the hospital went to say, would you please talk about this particular problem, this particular thing? And she was very willing to do that and very glad to do that and stayed really caught up in all the things in that area.
A global thinker who valued her community very much, Dr. Shadowin's voice was listened to carefully by people around the state, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic.
But her expertise was just so different, and her ability to be able to share the information that she read. She was always just the best teacher. And she would teach us and explain it in such a way that we could use it and do something with it.
Sadly, her voice was silenced when she succumbed to the coronavirus on September 11, 2020, 4 months after being diagnosed.
She had sickness to be on a ventilator. She knew that really raised your chances of dying and not doing well. So when we transferred her to UK, she knew that the odds were against her.
Rebecca Shadowin's death at the age of 62 made national news, her obituary in the New York Times. The infectious disease specialist who helped navigate HIV, SARS, and diagnose this area's first case of Lyme disease had died from COVID-19, a virus she had been researching relentlessly since January of 2020.
She was a strong proponent for masks and social distancing and all that thing early on. And even back in the early days, she was one of the ones saying that if we ever get a vaccine, this is how we'll fix this. We won't fix this with nothing short of that, basically.
Born Rebecca Dawn Hunt on April 4, 1958 in Louisville, Becky, as she was known to friends and family, grew up in nearby Bullitt County. In high school, she was involved in band, speech, and played the lead role in My Fair Lady. She was co-valedictorian of her class at Bullitt Central High School. Medicine was part of her life from an early age.
Starting about age 15, she started working in the medical office where her mother worked. There was a family practice office, so she got a little bit of taste of medicine there. She actually got to do quite a bit. While she was there in her high school years, she learned how to draw blood and how to take x-rays and how to room patients and quite a few things.
Enrolling at WKU in the fall of 1976, Becky's classes often overlapped with another pre-med student named David Shadowin. He remembers coming to her rescue when another classmate offered Becky a ride down the hill after class.
I could tell from the look on her face, she didn't really want to ride with him. So I said, well, she's not going to ride with you because she already said she's going to ride down the hill with me. And when he walked away, she looked relieved. I said, yeah, that was a good choice. He's not the nicest of guys, but there's something I should tell you. I don't own a car.
Their comparative anatomy professor, Dr. Blaine Farrell, remembers the courtship well.
But Becky and David were in the course together, and I knew they were probably going to get married because they sat in the far back left corner in the lab and were dissecting, and I couldn't tell whose hand was which because they were all intertwined all the time.
After graduating from WKU with honors in 1980, David and Becky went on to U of L Medical School.
I was just there on a clinical track. I was just there to learn how to be a doctor, and that was that. On the other hand, she was there for everything. She wanted to do research, she wanted to do teaching, she wanted to take care of patients, and that's the way her training went.
They married after their first year. Becky went on to specialize in infectious disease and David in endocrinology. A residency followed at the University of Missouri at Kansas City, and she studied infectious disease at the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston. It was 1989 before the couple settled back in Bowling Green to start practicing medicine and eventually start a family.
And we didn't have our children till late. We were in our late 30s when we had our kids. You know, she had twins. I just wanted time, but she had twins. And then she was a primary caregiver. She fed them, she took them to school, she did the homework with them, all the things that kids need. Fortunately, she did for them.
Even with a demanding career, her longtime colleague and neighbor, Melinda Joyce, says being a mom was the job she cherished the most.
She was very seamless, moving between what was going on at the hospital, what was going on in her practice, but also being able to be first and foremost mom. I still wonder to this day when she ever slept, because it didn't matter. You would get emails from her at 2 in the morning, and then at 2 in the afternoon, she would be in the yard playing with her children.
The family loved to travel together. Becky was also committed to helping people get the proper vaccines and medications to do mission work all over the world. Working almost to the end from her hospital bed in the COVID unit she helped develop at the medical center, Dr. Shadowin was hopeful for the day a COVID-19 vaccine would be available.
When she was in the hospital, she was telling me and the kids, as soon as you have the opportunity, you have to get this.
I was with her on the last day of her life. David allowed me to be there. So I was there with the kids, and then I left before she passed away. And that was a very, very hard day.
Ultimately, all she wanted to do was help people.
That's why she went into medicine, but she went even a step higher than most people, and she worked very hard. And she gained a great reputation, but was never arrogant. She was very humble. She was just a wonderful person.
And she had a wonderful sense of humor. She had the best laugh in the world. I mean, you know, it was, she enjoyed life. She enjoyed what she did.
As with her other numerous accolades she received throughout her career, friends and family say Dr. Shadowin would have been truly humbled and honored by her induction into the Hall of Distinguished Alumni.
The spirit makes the master. I think that's just perfect for her. As far as being inducted into the Hall of Fame, she would be very honored, but she would say, but there are so many other people that should do this. What about so-and-so? Or what about this person?
Still, her husband says it's hard to overstate the impact WKU had on her entire life.
She used her education, her background, to become the best doctor, the best parent, the best mother that she could. So it wasn't just the medical things that Western taught her. It taught her how to be a good friend, how to be a good spouse, you know, and she used all that.
2021 Hall of Distinguished Alumni inductee, Dr. Rebecca Shadowin.
Thank you all very much. Need glasses. I would like to thank Western Kentucky University for awarding this award to my wife, Dr. Rebecca Shadowin. She would have been very pleased and honored to have received this award. She was encouraged to attend Western by one of her high school teachers. When she decided to go between music and pre-med, unfortunately for me, she chose pre-med because they put in a lot of classes together with me. She graduated with honors in 1984 and learned three main things at Western. The first was continue to learn and educate herself the rest of her life. She did attend medical school at Louisville and in Kansas City for internal medicine and Charleston, South Carolina for infectious disease. But after that, she continued to take education seriously, and she attended national meetings regularly, going to educational luncheons, doing online computer courses, and staying up to date in her field by reading medical journals. The second thing she learned from Western was continue doing research. She did research at Western on mice in the biology department. And then while in South Carolina, she did research developing a monoclonal antibody test for Campylobacter pylori and participated in new drug research to treat cytomegaloviruses and fungal infections. When we moved back to Bowling Green, she began her clinical practice, but continued to do research here, evaluating new drugs and treatments for AIDS, fungal infections, viral infections, including hepatitis C and cytomegalovirus. She also worked on gram-positive infections and gram-negative sepsis. She also did research on how to appropriately use antibiotics to avoid development of resistance and how to get physicians to use antibiotics appropriately. She had many people help her with these research projects, including her professors at Western and South Carolina, and many people here in Bowling Green. In particular, Dr. Melinda Joyce and her worked jointly on several research projects while she was here. The third thing she took from Western was to continue to try and treat others. She gave lectures to children at McNeil Elementary School, Bowling Green Junior High. She gave lectures to the WKU Gifted Students Program, the WKU Biology Honor Society, and then helped teach basic medical skills to medical students here in Bowling Green. She taught the local doctors and nurses by giving grand rounds at the medical center and doing noon conferences and medical meetings at local hospitals, and including hospitals here in town, Glasgow, Franklin, Scottsville, Hawkinsville, Evansville. And she also gave lectures at the Warren County Medical Society and Barron County Medical Society. She published articles in national journals for infectious disease. She presented research at national meetings for infectious disease doctors and also for GI doctors. She wrote articles about antiretroviral therapy that were published in the Kentucky Pharmacy Journal and helped teach medical students and residents how to do basic medical care of patients. In our area, she also helped develop the outpatient IV antibiotic treatment program for patients and also helped develop the field of travel medicine, which allowed for safer international travel for missionaries and other folks who were doing worldwide travel from our region. When the COVID virus hit, she helped develop and work with the Bowling Green and Warren County Coronavirus Work Group and with Drs. Randy Carter and William Moss set up the COVID unit at Med Center, which I think helped contribute to how what we did here locally with the disease. She participated in statewide Zoom meetings sponsored by Governor Manny Bashir and Dr. Stack, the medical director for the Kentucky Department of Public Health. And I think their efforts helped control COVID-19 in our state such that it kept Kentucky's rate of hospitalizations and deaths lower than every state that touched our state for over a year. However, I think the best teaching she did here in Bowling Green occurred when she would talk one-on-one with either nurses or doctors or patients about how to treat various medical problems. This is where Becky always thought she did her most effective teaching, and I would have to agree with that. Western is where she was taught in the background of lifelong learning, doing research, and teaching others. She was particularly grateful to the professors in her pre-med classes for their patience and help in teaching her these skills. I'd like to thank the Alumni Association for having these awards to honor deserving graduates, and in particular, I'd like to thank Jenny Hensley for her help guiding my children and me through this process. I'd also like to thank President Timothy Caboni for continuing this tradition of having distinguished alumni awards, because our school does produce many graduates who have made significant contributions in many fields at the local, national, and international levels. And they do deserve to be recognized for what they've done and achieved. Lastly, I'd like to thank my wife for putting up with me for 40 years, raising and taking care of our children. You don't always realize what someone does for you to the call. I'd like to thank my family and friends who helped get me and my children through this process of losing her. And if she was here, I'm sure she would end this speech by saying something about doing what you could to protect yourself. We have not yet reached herd immunity in our area of this state, nor in the state at all. And she would encourage everyone to wear a mask indoors and do social distancing, and when able, get a vaccine and get a booster. We have lost more than 734,000 people in this country to COVID, the majority of which have died this year, not last year. In Kentucky, we lost 9,600 people to COVID. That's more than the population of Franklin, Kentucky. And the last thing my wife wrote was, protect yourself and others. Currently, getting a vaccine and wearing a mask indoors is the best way to do that. Thank you all very much.
I would like to congratulate our newest members of the Hall of Distinguished Alumni. Howard and Michelle, thank you for both sharing your story with us today. And David, thank you for being here to tell us the legacy, or tell us the story of Rebecca's legacy. Each of our inductees' stories and legacies will be permanently enshrined as members of the WKU Hall of Distinguished Alumni. Today's ceremony is the result of months of preparations with many partners. Thank you again to our presenting partner, Franklin Bank and Trust. We'd also like to thank Cheryl Beckley with WKU Public Broadcasting and Amy Bingham DeCesare with the University Communications and Marketing for their exceptional work on the videos you viewed today. Thank you to VidMonster for helping us to live stream today's event. And finally, thank you to everyone who has joined us in the room and online. I want to give a special thanks to the students of Horticulture 420 Floral Shop Management under the supervision of Mr. Roger Dennis, Clinical Assistant Professor in Horticulture, who provided the beautiful floral arrangements in the room and throughout the building. Celebrating the achievement of our alumni is part of the purpose of the WKU Alumni Association. We invite you to help us identify outstanding Hilltoppers who achieved the highest level of distinctions in their career. Nominations are open annually and close December 1st for each year's selection. I invite you to celebrate homecoming with us all weekend. Thanks to Josh Durkee and the students of White Squirrel Weather, we have a weather forecast that gave us confidence to go forward with the homecoming parade today, so that will kick off at 5 p.m. At the corner of there at the planetarium, go downstairs or go downtown, circle Fountain Square, and come back up and end at Cherry Hall. So we hope that you'll come out, bring your umbrella just in case, and join us for the rest of the activities this weekend. For those of us that are with us in person, if you need a parking validation for the Alumni Square Garage, please stop at the front desk on your way out, and we'll be happy to provide that for you. Thank you for your unwavering spirit and support of WKU, and as always, go Tops.